You check your bank account. Nothing dramatic happened today. You didn't get a raise. You didn't win anything. You just went to work, came home, and maybe skipped a coffee you didn't really need. It felt like nothing. But the real answer is far stranger than nothing. Your brain is built to ignore exactly this kind of moment. Small. Repeated. Boring. It has no smell of danger, no burst of reward. So your ancient alarm systems stay quiet. But somewhere underneath that silence, something is compounding. Not just money. Behavior. For most of human history, saving anything for later was almost impossible. Food rotted. Shelter was temporary. A surplus today could be gone by tomorrow, stolen by weather, animals, or rival groups. Your ancestors who survived were the ones who grabbed value the moment it appeared. Eat now. Use now. Store only what you could defend. That instinct didn't fade just because supermarkets and savings accounts showed up 10,000 years later. It's still running in the background of your skull, quietly telling you that anything not consumed today is a risk. This is why $100 feels so unimpressive. It's not enough to hunt with, not enough to show off, not enough to feel like progress. So your brain files it under doesn't matter and moves on to the next decision. But here's the part almost nobody feels in the moment. Small and repeated is exactly the pattern your brain is worst at valuing, and exactly the pattern that quietly reshapes an entire life. In the 1960s, a psychologist named Walter Mischel ran an experiment with children and a marshmallow. Put a treat in front of a child. Tell them if they wait 15 minutes without eating it, they get 2 instead of 1. Then leave the room and watch what happens. Some children ate it in seconds. Others distracted themselves, looked away, sat on their hands, anything to survive the wait. Years later, Mischel tracked those same children into adulthood. The ones who waited tended to do better in school, handle stress more effectively, and make steadier long-term decisions. The marshmallow was never really about candy. It was about whether your brain can tolerate a gap between a small sacrifice now and a bigger reward later. Money works on the exact same nervous system as that marshmallow. $100 sitting untouched in an account is a marshmallow you're being asked to not eat for 30 years. Question: if delaying gratification for 15 minutes was hard enough to become one of psychology's most famous experiments, what does your brain think about delaying gratification for 3 decades? It panics, quietly, in ways you don't consciously notice. Economists call this present bias. A researcher named George Ainsley studied how humans and animals value rewards over time and found something strange. We don't discount the future evenly. We discount it in a curve, valuing tomorrow far less than today, but valuing day 100 and day 101 almost the same. That curve explains why skipping dessert tonight feels brutal, but skipping dessert in 100 days feels easy to promise. It's the same illogical curve that makes investing $100 this month feel pointless, while investing $100 a month for the next 3 decades sounds, in theory, like a great idea. Your brain agrees with the plan and resists the action at the exact same time. So most people don't fail at investing because they don't understand math. They fail because their nervous system was never built to feel the size of a number that only makes sense multiplied by time. Here's where the story gets stranger. Picture that $100 not as a static pile, but as a seed. Put it into something that grows on average around 7% a year, adjusted for inflation, which is roughly what a broad stock market index has historically returned over long periods. In year 1, it barely moves. Year 5, it's still just a stack of contributions with a little extra on top. Your brain checks in, sees nothing dramatic, and files it under not working. But growth doesn't rise in a straight line. It curves. Money earns money, and then the money that money earned starts earning too. Somewhere around year 15 to 20, without changing your behavior at all, the growth stops looking like a slope and starts looking like a wall. That shape has a name: exponential growth. And here's the twist: almost nobody mentions. Your brain is exceptionally bad at predicting exponential curves. Not slightly bad, structurally bad. A famous demonstration asks people to fold a piece of paper in half 50 times and guess how thick it would be. Most guesses land somewhere around the height of a person, or maybe a building. The real answer, mathematically, would reach past the sun. Nobody's intuition gets that right on the first guess, because your mind evolved to track linear threats, not compounding ones. A predator getting twice as fast is terrifying and obvious. Money getting mathematically faster every single year is invisible, because it never announces itself. It just quietly folds over on itself, decade after decade, until one day the shape of the curve finally becomes visible, and by then it's already enormous. This is also why the habit matters more than the amount. Daniel Kahneman, a psychologist who won a Nobel Prize for showing how humans actually make decisions, rather than how economists assumed they would, found that people feel the pain of losing money roughly twice as intensely as the pleasure of gaining the same amount. That single asymmetry explains an enormous amount of financial behavior. It explains why people check investments constantly during downturns and barely notice them during slow growth. It explains why $100 leaving your account each month can feel like a loss, even while it's quietly becoming a gain that will eventually dwarf what was given up. Your nervous system is grading the withdrawal in real time and the return decades later, on two completely different emotional scales. So the habit survives not because it feels good, but because it's automated past the part of your brain that would otherwise talk you out of it. Think about what your ancestors actually optimized for. Not wealth in the modern sense, consistency. A hunter who showed up every single day, even on the days prey was scarce, outlasted the one who only tried hard on days that felt promising. Persistence, not intensity, was the trait that kept small tribes alive across brutal winters and lean seasons. That same trait, aimed at a bank account instead of a hunting ground, produces the exact same outcome. Not a single dramatic win, a long, boring accumulation that nobody around you notices until it's already massive. That's the part that trips people up. It never feels like it's working. There's no day where $100 a month suddenly transforms into wealth. There's no visible line you cross. It behaves less like a lightning strike and more like erosion in reverse, value building in silence, one deposit at a time, while your attention is somewhere else entirely, focused on the next paycheck, the next bill, the next thing that actually feels urgent. And that might be the most human part of this whole story. The habit that changes your life is rarely the one that feels significant in the moment. It's the one small enough to survive your own boredom, small enough to not trigger the ancient alarm that says, not enough, ignore it, small enough to keep happening on the days you don't feel motivated at all. Somewhere between a 15-minute marshmallow test and a 30-year curve too steep for your intuition to picture, the same brain wiring is at work, quietly deciding whether you get one reward now or a much larger one later. You check your bank account. Nothing dramatic happened today. But the real answer is far stranger than nothing. Somewhere underneath the silence, the smallest habit you almost didn't bother with is the one quietly deciding who you become.